been through the most heartbreak I think I ever have in the past year. Something I learned and something I'm still a little bit struggling with is people don't always, I guess, have the same heart as you. You're going to leave this period of your life behind, so why fixate on it? I think I'm just a lot more comfortable being vulnerable now too. Talking about our feelings is important.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Connections. I'm your host, Bren, and today we have a special treat for all of you music, beauty, and art enthusiasts out there. Today, our guest is an incredibly talented individual who wears many hats in the world of creativity. She's a rising star in the music industry, a skilled writer, a master of beauty and hair care, an artist who paints her imagination into reality, a model who had elegance to the world, and a content creation wizard. Her latest single, Only You, which is released on September 7th, has been making waves in the music scene. It's a song that'll make you feel, make you groove, and leave you utterly captivated with her musical talent. So grab your headphones, get ready to be inspired, and prepare to dive into the captivating world of Devon Dalgarno. From the soulful notes of her music to her insights into writing, beauty secrets, mesmerizing art, and her journey through modeling, and the magic she creates in the world of content, this episode is going to be an unforgettable ride. So, without further ado, let's welcome the all-talented Devon Dalgarno. Devon, pleasure to have you here. How are you doing today?
I'm so great. How are you?
I'm very good. Let's give me like a brief summary of your life.
I am very family oriented. I'm very close with my family. I have a big blended family. My parents separated many years ago. Both of them are remarried, but all four of them actually get along really weirdly well, and we all hang out together all the time. So yeah, I would say my family makes me a lot of who I am. We're all very loud and boisterous and funny and Scottish. We like to drink. Yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome. You've said your families are close, so I'm assuming that also means that you're close to your parents as well. Is that correct?
I'm very close to my parents.
So what would you say kind of brings you closer? Like, what's the things you connect with your parents?
Music a lot. My dad is a musician as well. He's in a blues band. He had to take some time off for a wrist injury, and I have never seen him not know what to do with himself. He's a lead guitarist, so that definitely puts a blockage in some things. But yeah, I would say music. My mom she would kill me for saying this. I wouldn't say she holds the musical talent, but she holds the musical appreciation. And my mom is definitely the person who introduced me to musical theater, and I'm a theater kid through and through, so.
So I'm assuming that means also in school, we're doing some theater and some drama classes?
Oh my God. Yep. Yep. Okay. Sure did.
Do we have any big lead roles or anything like that in any of the plays?
No big roles. To be honest, I think at that time in my life, I was not necessarily as confident as I am now. So I had the inner wanting to be the lead, and I would like imagine myself as the lead, but the actual execution, I definitely held myself back a lot just from that lack of confidence. And I wouldn't say I was shy. I just definitely didn't believe in myself the way that I definitely do now as an adult.
What would you say is your biggest fear then in life?
A few years ago, if you had asked me, I would have said rejection, for sure. Huge fear of rejection and just not feeling adequate. But now I feel like I don't care. I don't care. What's not for me is not for me. There's been a lot of growth since the fear of rejection. So like my fear now is not doing the things that I want to do. I feel like I definitely wouldn't want to wake up in 10 years and feel like I didn't go for something. I was scared of being rejected, so I just didn't try at all.
With that, what is the hardest thing you've had to overcome this past year?
I have been through the most heartbreak I think I ever have in the past year. But I've also, just to turn that a little more positively, I've discovered so much more about myself and who I am as a person through that grief and heartbreak and whatever else. So it all turns around, and I'm like a sickeningly positive person, so I feel like I always look for those things. But yeah, this past year was a little it was a little crazy.
Using that kind of emotions, you had your new single, Only You, just came out.
Mm-hmm.
What emotions fueled that creation?
The dating scene in Vancouver is garbage. I don't even want to say just Vancouver. I feel like dating as a 27-year-old is not for the weak. I've always been a relationship girly. I have only ever really been in long-term committed relationships. I feel like everybody our age is just so jaded and so overly critical of everyone around them. I feel like there's no reason to be so jaded when we're not even 30. Like, who hurt you? I just... Only You kind of stemmed from a situation that I don't know if I should say this because he's going to know it's about him. But we're on our Taylor Swift shit, so who knows?
Devon's version.
Yeah, Devon's version. I think everything hurts a little bit extra when the people that you're really close with hurt you. I don't care if I get ghosted. I might be the only person ever to say that. I don't care if I get ghosted. When I get love bombed and then ghosted by somebody who has been my friend for a significantly long period of time, that sucks. So that's kind of where Only You stemmed from, where I've been ghosted, like that everybody has, but it just like hurts. It twists the knife a little bit more when it's somebody who you're already close to.
It's hard. I can imagine because it's part in the name, but close connection with. And
Yeah.
for that to all kind of change and disappear, difficult to grasp with. So I guess I'm going to flip it on to you. Talked about love bombing and stuff like that. So what's the most embarrassing thing that you've done for someone that you love?
I think this all stems from self-esteem issues and like not feeling good enough, like going back to that fear of rejection, like just not wanting to be told that I wasn't good enough. I fully used to be that person in relationships that would do everything. I was so far like into my masculine a little bit, I guess, where like I was providing and I was doing all the things so that my partner would not have to put in their equal share. Like it was not a 50-50 split. It was 80-20 a lot of the time. And to be completely honest, that is embarrassing because I was absolutely selling myself short and not realizing my own self-worth. And from the outside, looking back at that person, I am embarrassed. Like, I deserve much more than that, as everyone does.
With that, you talked about self-worth, which I think is very important. How did you notice that self-worth, and how did that kind of change to the point where you're like, something needs to change?
I think I just took a lot of time to be single, spend time with myself, like actively spend time with myself. I took myself to a movie one time. Like, I frequently just take myself on dates and do more things for myself in terms of self-care, but also just like I never don't treat myself. Like I'm always doing the little things where it's like little treat, you know. Just spent a lot of time with myself and got to know myself again. I think with being a relationship girly, you're a different person when you're in a relationship versus being by yourself. So I think just getting back to that person was very crucial.
There's a very interesting comparison that I had too. And so I think I've shared this on Connections previously when I was running it on Twitch. There was a I was in therapy at that point, and my therapist said something to me. Still stuck in my head to this day. So I mean, I guess it worked. But she basically said essentially, you treat others so well, and you give out love like so much and so easily, but why don't you do it for yourself? Like, why don't you switch the kind of role around, and why don't you give you like the love and respect that you would give to someone else? Her kind of breakdown was, take it as to something like washing your hair. If you do it to yourself, you're like, like sort of thing. Like, maybe not you because you're in the industry of that word, but for me at least, it's it's on speed mode sort of thing.
Yeah, just get it
And
done.
then exactly, but if that was a partner, that wouldn't be how I would do it. It would be very like easy and try not to rip any hair out sort of thing, like and very
Yeah.
like loving and sort of thing. And it changed my perspective on things. And hey, I'm still the one who goes speed mode in the shower, but it's made me think a little bit. And trust me, I am the biggest fan of self dates. I think like a thing that should be more
We need to normalize that.
totally
Yeah, like you don't have to entertain somebody the whole time. You can just chill and
focus on you.
sit with your thoughts, which I guess could be scary, but
Sometimes, because I think it is important to process certain
oh
things
yeah.
sometimes. It's comparable to those shower thoughts. You know what I mean? Like when you're sitting in the shower and you're like way too deep into thought and you're like, well, I need to get out now. It's like been 30 minutes.
I don't even want to tell you how often I do that.
I don't know. I'm definitely big on the self dates. It's something that I definitely respect about you that you do for yourself, because I think it's important. It is really important to do, and I wish more people kind of understood that, because I think there's a lack of understanding. And hey, if the dating scene's garbage, at least you can date yourself, and that's at least someone who will take care of yourself.
You will always have yourself. Like, even if you have partners you break up with, friendships that end, whatever, like, you will always have yourself. And it's like, you gotta like yourself. You gotta get to know yourself. You will always have you.
It's true. It's true. I like that. You always have you. Exactly. We're gonna switch it up here a little bit. What are 3 things that are on your bucket list?
I would love the lead in a musical.
Do you have a specific one you want to be
I
in?
was just gonna say, my favorite musical of all time is Burlesque. And I would love to be Allie. Not just because Christina Aguilera is my favorite person, just that musical is my favorite. That's like my comfort show that, yeah, I would absolutely die. I would love to solo travel somewhere outside of the country. I've solo traveled within the country, but I would love to go to like Portugal would be super cool. I would love to go back to Spain. I went with my family and it was amazing. Yeah, just somewhere again by myself. I feel like I sound like I'm no one. It's not true. But I the solo traveling I did do within the country, I liked it more than I thought I would. I am a very anxious traveler in terms of I know that I'm disorganized. So when you're traveling by yourself,
Preach it to the choir.
you have no one to rely on. Like if you forget something, that's it. Sucks to be you. Like I can't have that kind of pressure. But it actually went surprisingly well. And I think now I could like broaden the horizon a little bit of where I travel to. So yeah, Portugal would be cool. Because my family's Scottish too, I've always wanted to go to Scotland. I think that would be really awesome. My third thing, I would love to release a full-length album. I'm not saying it's currently in the works, but I have been writing a lot.
Oh,
So that might be a bucket list item that comes true.
I do one thing I will say. So I've obviously had to do a lot of research for in preparation for this, and one thing I noticed, and one thing I thought of, is I think I know you have your one single. You Won't Get Cold, plus Only You. I don't know what it is about Only You. I think it's just the vibes, but something about it tells me you need to write a full Christmas album, because like Only You gives me way too much Christmas vibes.
Does it really?
Yes, I don't know
Okay.
why.
You know how happy that just made me? Because I am a Christmas bitch. I am like, Halloween is over And I am like, my Christmas tree is going up this weekend.
There you go.
Oh my God. Now that you just said that, I'm in. I'm sold. It's happening. Everyone should comment what Christmas songs are their favorite Christmas songs, and they will go on the album.
I like that. I like that. We'll put it on the Christmas song. Like, there you go. It was something I noticed. I was like, I was like listening to Only You, and I've listened to Only You probably the most. I've listened to it a lot.
All the streams are brand.
Oh yeah, really. It's literally like, if anything, I've had you're at the top of my Spotify right now because I'm just listening to them, and usually when I'm like doing anything for like connections related right now, I've just been doing everything just listening to that, and then any other guests that are coming up. But it's definitely been a lot of Devon Dalgarno on my Spotify recently.
Oh, thank you.
Of course. One thing I will say too, and just kind of a credit to you as well, is you can definitely notice your difference in how your voice has changed, and you've gotten definitely more confident in your voice and stuff like that. Thinking about you, like being the first one, and the difference from that to like Only You is like crazy.
Insane. Like, it's crazy to think that. So I think 2019 was when Thinking About You came out. That's like isn't that like 5 years ago? Like, I sound like a baby. But I also, yeah, like I was definitely still in my just wanting to fade into the background a little bit, fear of rejection kind of mindset at that time, because I was just starting out with recording, and I was working with Tavish Crow, who he plays in Carly Rae Jepsen's band, and he's amazing. He's a really, like, I'm so grateful to him to have started me out on Spotify and everything. But just like, I feel like I would be in the booth and he'd be like, "Kate, give me more," and I'd be like, "I can't." Like, I would almost have this like I was so nervous and I was so scared of just being perceived. Now I'm not, and that's actually shame on all y'all, because you got me out of this box and now I can't shut the fuck up.
It's interesting to see the difference as well. But with that, you've worked with a wide range of talented musicians on your journey, from Distractions with Brent, Dean, and Jackson, to Dion Zimmer, to Chris Antonio and Tavish Crow. Can you share some valuable lessons and insights you've gained from all those collaborations, and anyone else that I didn't mention that you'd like to add on to there too?
Chris Antonio is my favorite human. He reached out to me through Instagram, I think, way back in 2019, 2020, when I started releasing. And we had just followed each other. We had some mutual followers, I think. And I had never met him before, but he was like, "Hey, I'm starting out at Nova Studios. If you want, like, let's cook something up." Met up with him, and we wrote Roots together pretty much off the bat. Like, and Roots was the first song that, after finding the beat and after writing it, I was like, this is what I want to sound like. And no disrespect to the singles released beforehand, because I still like hold a lot of space for them. Like, just, I always go back to, every time I listen to them, I always go back to where I was writing them. And I love them a lot, but Roots, just the overall like big picture of it, I was like, this is what I want to sound like. Having Chris write that song with me was very special. And from there, we kind of got the idea of, like, we get along so well. Like, our studio sessions are so fun. It's like hanging out with your friends. Like, we have a blast. And from there, we, I guess, kind of just thought up the idea to do an EP. And that's how Moody was born. And all of the songs on the EP are all thanks to Chris Antonio. And he is a homie for life now. Like, he will actually never get rid of me, and we will do the album and the Christmas album together. So,
well, I'm holding you to it.
Yeah.
Can you share like a specific piece of like one of those songs, or maybe like something that you've done that holds a special meaning to you, and why?
Oh, the first thing that comes into my mind is the Spring interlude on the Moody EP. That was a very last minute addition, and I went back and forth so many times about having it on there, because yes, it is such a little shorty, like it's only a minute 20 seconds or something. The process of writing the EP and making it in general was just so transformative, and like that was such a like an emotional period of time for me. I was going through like the biggest breakup of my life. I was just figuring out who I was as a human being. And as much as looking back at that time was so, it was very positive for me because change is good. I'm a Gemini, I'm very adaptable. Spring was definitely the period of time where my depression was the worst. I was properly diagnosed with depression in 2020, but just couldn't really accept it and like was choosing to ignore it at the time. And so spring, there's a line in it where I say, tell my mom that I love her. And I like just recently have been able to sing that song live without like totally having a mental breakdown, because that was not an amazing period of time for me mentally. Singing that song now, I feel like has a lot more of a positive meaning just because now we're like on the other side of that. But yeah, at the time it was a toss-up of whether that was gonna make it on it or not.
Do you feel happy that you added it on now, though?
Yeah. I think I'm just a lot more comfortable being vulnerable now, too. Talking about our feelings is important.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. I couldn't agree more. So let's kind of stay on that topic, too, is you said you were properly diagnosed in 2020 with depression. How did that kind of change your kind of outlook on, I mean, you've obviously been probably going through it before that, I'm sure. Just in 2020 was when you actually got someone said, yeah, no, it's a thing. You're actually experiencing something that's real. How did that kind of validate and kind of make you feel when you kind of heard that?
I think at first it's a little scary because of course you're feeling all the feelings, but that's just it. Like you're feeling all the feelings. You're not fully aware of how that's being portrayed to those around you. And I think it's a little intimidating having a doctor tell you. But I also think once I did come to terms with it and actually started treating myself accordingly, it it definitely it got a lot easier, but it also just opened up such a conversation where you aren't the only person who's going through that. I think prior to the diagnosis, I was very closed off, had a lot of different walls for different things. And yeah, you just don't talk about your feelings. Like I was the person who, I'm the oldest sibling. I have two younger sisters. And growing up, my middle sister, Haley, we're 18 months apart, so we always joke that we should have been twins, and she just had to cook a little longer. But we are the same person. We had identical childhoods. Like, she is the closest person to me and my soul sister and best friend of life. But there were a lot of times growing up where I definitely had to put my feelings to the side so that hers could be dealt with. So that, I think, kind of translated into my adult life as, not that my feelings weren't important, but like they just weren't as like much of a priority as those around me. So I think after letting all of that build up, you just kind of like, you don't talk about it. You don't talk about your feelings. There's other things that are more prevalent. But after speaking to a professional, you're kind of like then that can hold space there.
It's important, and I think it is important, and I'm a big believer in therapy and things along those
Absolutely.
lines. And I said this multiple times to friends in the past is if you don't even feel like you have any like issues or anything like that, like, because that's 9 times out of 10 when people go to therapy, it's still good to go and talk to someone as a therapist, because first off, you might uncover something that you don't know about yourself, positive or negative, but also it's someone to talk to who has no like horse in the race, like
Absolutely.
no judgment. They're not there aside from your benefit. And that's something that was very weird to me, because I mean, I have a great group of friends, but it was the kind of the thing of like, I mean, there might not be like a full, but let's use this as an example is, you know, when you tell your parents about that you're like your partner or something like that, and they've done something wrong, and now all of a sudden your parents hate that partner because they did that once. Yeah. Everyone goes through it, you know what I mean? And that's called, and so that's kind of like the same thing is like, as much as I trust those people, they're skewed a little bit in that kind of way, whereas a therapist is trained not to do that. And that's something that I do like. As much as I love telling all the tea to my family and my friends, stuff like that, if I decide to have a change of heart, it sometimes makes it a little difficult. And
yeah. Well, and your family and friends should want to put you first.
of course.
So like they're going to like they don't care about, you know, two sides of the story. Like they're not going to criticize you at all. They're going to be like, no, grab the pitchforks and torches and we're going to war.
Exactly. We've heard already a little bit about the kind of like the trials and tribulations you've had. What lesson in life did you have to learn the hard way?
That's such a huge question. I think something I learned and something I'm still a little bit struggling with is people don't always, I guess, have the same heart as you and the same intentions as you. And that lesson I don't think ever gets easier. You just have to, one thing that I'm really trying to stay in the mindset of now is like, don't let anybody like harden you if you're like, I feel like I'm a very big hearted, like I'm a softie. I am a hopeless romantic. I might have that like black cat best friend exterior, but I am squishy on the inside. And if I wasn't going to therapy and if I wasn't so self-aware, I think a lot of the heartache and the grief that I've been through in the past like 3 years, that would have changed me a lot as a person. And so I think the lesson that I'm continuing to learn is not everybody is going to have good intentions or have the same heart as you and love the way you love, and you just have to not let that change how you do things.
Good, I like that. Yeah, for sure. Kind of going back to the more side of creation and your creation side, do you have any unique rituals or routines that you follow to keep your creative juices flowing?
You gotta sit around and do nothing once in a while. I have been a victim of the burnout several times. Just from putting too much on your plate, like packing your schedule too full of things. I don't understand how people don't burn out. I guess it shows up in everybody differently, but like my body will tell me when I need to slow down. Yeah, sometimes you really just need days to sit around and binge a show, have some snacks, like turn your phone on D&D and like don't talk to anybody. It's important to reset for sure.
What is a telltale sign about you that that always gives you away when you're feeling stressed?
I would say my telltale sign to other people, I can get a little irritable, I guess. I can get a little mean. It's like when people get hangry. Like, you know, you get cranky. I can admit that I do it. It's not a good thing, but I do get a little irritable. I also don't sleep very well. Like, I can tell when I'm burnt out because I'm exhausted, but I can't go to sleep.
Definitely a big part of it is sleep. It's something that I've been kind of tracking and learning about in the past probably like 6 months, is the importance of sleep. And it comes from 2 really bad injuries as part of it. And the one that's at this point is close to about a year and the healing process still. And realizing that probably a good portion of that, because I wasn't doing anything to specifically injure it, was the lack of sleep and the sleep debt that I've accumulated. And it was something that I was like, wow, like this is way more real. Like I thought, oh, like if I don't sleep for, like I have like a bad sleep one night and then I just have a good 8 hour sleep, oh, we're good. And that's not how it works. And as I get older, it gets way worse because I ain't as young as I used to be. I can't do those all-nighters anymore. What do you regret doing in life?
I don't regret a lot of things, to be completely honest with you, because I think like I truly think everything just happens for a reason. I think I totally am a believer in the universe and things playing out to how they're supposed to. So I think that kind of helps me not stew in it and not like I really don't regret a lot of things, but I do think back to instances where I for sure could have spoken up for myself better. And I think that in turn, with I guess the ongoing self-esteem issue, I just think looking back at yourself in like high school and stuff, like everybody's like not super proud of the person they were. But yeah, no, I don't really have a lot of regrets.
That's good. It's a good way to live. It's definitely a good way to live.
This was a thought that I had when we were talking about injuries, and I was gonna say, speaking of injuries, do you remember how we met?
Oh my goodness, I do.
I don't know if you want to tell that story.
We can talk. Yeah, sure.
I just think it's
I'm
so
an
funny.
open book. Yes, it is. It is pretty funny. It's funny to think that that was the first time that I had met you. That is the craziest part about it. This episode of Connections is brought to you by Connections Daily Journal. Get yours today on Amazon. Do you want to start it, or do you want me to start the story of how you and I came to meet?
Well, how about you start it because it happened to you.
Okay, fair enough. I'm trying to think of what injury it was to make sure I'm on the right one, but I'm pretty sure it is. So back in, oh my goodness, 2015 or 16, probably?
Must have been 2016, yeah.
Somewhere around there. I decided it would be a great idea to get a nose ring. I think some people who have been watching Connections for a while might know that. I've shared it maybe once or twice. It's not something I've made public too often. Not my greatest idea. It doesn't change that I still kind of wanted one, but I don't think I'll ever want to go through all this again after the story you'll hear. So I went and got my nose pierced. Thought it was really cool, and I enjoyed it a lot. And it was kind of part of the teenage angst phase that I was going through. And I mean, if you ask me, it looked great. The times that it wasn't bleeding crazy amounts. I got the nose piercing and had it for about 2 weeks. And I'm like, interesting. Everything I'm reading online, 2 weeks seems a bit of a long time for it still to be bleeding. It wasn't like a little bit of blood. Like it was a lot of blood. So finally I was like, you know what? At around like the 2 weeks marks, I'm like, I barely slept. I'm delirious. I was hanging out with one of my friends. I was basically like, you know what? I need this out. I'm done. I'm over it. Like I think I said like, oh, if it bleeds like this more times a day, I'm like, I'm done. And it hit that point and I was like, you know what? We're taking it out. But me never having a nose piercing, I didn't know how to remove it. And with a little stud, like you got to kind of like twist it and turn it out. And so I said to my friend, that was hanging out with me, I was like, she was into at that point movie makeup and stuff like that, so she was dealing with things that look like blood. And fortunate for me, was very good with blood. And so I said to her, I was like, hey, like, do you think you could just take this out of my nose? Because I can't do it, and if it's just you, I can just like kind of turn you. So she's like, yeah, sure, no problem. Very fortunate for me, because I don't know if it would have. I think I probably still would be wearing it to this day, and it'd be bleeding everywhere. But or I would have ended up in the hospital. Which, I mean, fun fact. This is where we're going. We went to the bathroom, and she like turned it out, and popped it out, and like a sink faucet, like a water, like a, what's the little water spout, like a school that you press.
It was like an old horror movie.
like literally like spouting blood, like with from like a distance. Like I could have probably hit someone if I was like aiming for it. Like it was launched, like not like drip drip drip, like we're hitting like length here. And I saw this, and I'm like, oh no, and so all I did is I took my two my two fingers, and I went like this and pinched my nose as hard as possible, and I like basically held like that, and looked at my friend. I was like, you need to get my mom right now, because at this point I still lived with my mom, and pinched it for I think it was probably close to about 30 minutes. I held it at the sink in my bathroom, and just kind of like that. And my mom comes and she's like, what's happening? And so my friend basically said, oh, we decided to take it out, but it started spitting blood. And she looks at me, she goes, what do you want to do? And I'm like, call me an ambulance. She's like, do you think you can, like, if you like get a ride or something? I'm like, I don't know. I was like, this is not like stopping. Like I took my finger off and it was like again. And I'm like, I need an ambulance. Like this is bad. She called 911. They came. It wasn't their biggest priority. They made it very clear to me when they found me is that when they usually hear a 19-ish, maybe 20-year-old with a nosebleed, a severe nosebleed, it's usually drug related, they told me. And they were very, very surprised to see a nose that was spouting like that. And so they needed to end up putting like basically some wrap on my face. And I have pictures. If I can find them, I'll put them here on the screen right now. But it was basically like I had this like wrap on my face, and I sat there in the hospital for maybe like an hour, and until it finally stopped. And then once it stopped, about probably like 10 minutes after that, I spat up a blood clot that was about the size of my fist. And I will never forget the look on my mom's face, because it was like, she looks at me and she goes, really? Really? And I was like, it was funny because like I felt so heavy because it was probably blocking a lot of my sinuses, this like huge clot, like the size of my fist, like huge. And like I literally just like spat out into like this like little pan or something like that. And she's like, really? And the really it was my mom is someone who always has something to say, but the fact that the only word she could utter out was really,
You
like,
stumped her.
it was, she was flabbergasted. Bro was flabbergasted. How this full story comes around is after that is my sinuses were clear. Everything was kind of good. It stopped bleeding. There was no more bleeding. It was done. It was over. We found out later that it ended up nicking an artery, and that's why it had been spouting like that. It's apparently kind of a 1 in a million chance that it can hit that spot. But how this relates to me meeting Devon is on Facebook. I posted, hey, like, can anyone help me and get me and my mom back home, because we had got there. And keep in mind, this was at probably like what, 2 in the morning?
Yeah, like it was an unreasonable time
Yeah,
of the night.
totally. Like no one should have been up at that tower. So do you want to take it from here? Because this is where it comes onto your side of the story of how you kind of got in front of it.
Yeah, so I was hanging out with one of my friends at the time who is like, that's how me and Bren met each other, was through this mutual friend. I don't even remember what we were doing. Like we were just hanging out. There was a group of us, I think, at the time, and he was scrolling through Facebook and saw your post, and he didn't drive at the time. I was the only one with a vehicle. So he was like, total random one-off question. Would you want to pick my friend up from the hospital right now? And I was like, by myself? And he was like, no, we'll go together. And so we drive to the hospital to pick you up, and he's like chatting with your mom, whatever. I'm like in the car like this. Like, what the is going on here? And like, I could have been a fly on the wall, but it just was so funny.
So what went through your head when you heard, do you want to go pick up my friend from the hospital? Was just the curiosity kicking too hard?
Well, yes. And I didn't want to ask any questions because I didn't want to make anyone uncomfy. But then I think like our friend was asking the questions, and I didn't have to say a word the whole time. I just think that that's so funny that was the first time I met you. I drove you home because you were bleeding like a crazy person.
Yeah, that's accurate and very probably one of the more interesting stories of how you've never met someone, I bet.
So true. So true.
If one of your close friends aren't someone who's bleeding in the back of your car, are they really your friend?
Are they really your friend? If you wouldn't pick me up from the hospital at 2 a.m. because my nose is bleeding severely, we're not friends.
So you want to change what your regret in life is? Maybe you should have said no to this. You could have avoided the whole
No
situation
regrets.
with me.
Look at us now.
It's true. It's true. On Connections, almost, which is crazy because it's almost like 8 years later, which is crazy to think.
That's insane.
And the amount of things that have changed in both of our lives in those years, and
I was gonna say.
it's crazy. Because I'm assuming, I think both of us probably lived with our parents at that point. And now I think we're both moved out, and the creative kind of like aspects of our lives that we've changed into is definitely interesting. How do you envision the future of music, not just yours, in general? And where do you think you play a role in it, or hope that you play a role in it?
I just I hope I get to keep releasing music. I feel like the future of music, I think, will only progress with technology. I hope people just keep releasing their art because they love it and not because it's either viral content or like something to make them money or, something that's popular or trendy. It could be popular or trendy, but like I think you should love it and have some sort of connection to it, specifically with, either the writing or the actual music itself. I feel like I can't really speak to where I see the future of music going, but all I hope is that I get to keep releasing stuff because that is my lot in life. Like that is my passion is writing and creating music. And I really hope that I get to keep performing because live performance is, I would say, like a newer love for me, but all the same, like something that just takes me somewhere. So,
But what are your aspirations for your career within the next 5 years, and how do you plan to achieve them?
I've been a hairstylist now for probably like 7 years. Getting into it, I definitely was of the mindset that I wanted something creative and hands-on, something where I could be on my feet. I wasn't just sitting at a desk all day, but something that I could make money doing, and in that would translate into like I just needed something to fuel the music fund. And that was it. That's how it started anyways. Like no word of a lie. I was like I just need something that I can eventually like hairstyling is not one of those things where you start making money right away. You really don't. Like it is a marathon. But I knew that going in, and my grandpa was a hairdresser and my stepmom was an esthetician. Like I grew up feeling very comfortable in the beauty industry, and so I knew that that was something I could kind of work hard at for the long haul. And yeah, I really just went into it being like, okay, this is gonna make me money, and the more money it makes me, the more time, but also like more funds to spend on music and focusing on that. But I will say that I have a whole new love for the beauty industry, like being in it. I've always been a makeup and fashion girly. Like just going to classes is one of my favorite things. Like hair cutting is my jam, whether it's ladies cutting or barbering or whatever. I just love learning about it, and it's one of those ever-changing industries because trends change all the time and people want different things. And yeah, so something that started out not as my future, but just as like for the time being, turned into something that I think I will always have a love for, and it will remain in my future. But also in my future, I would like to, like I said, like releasing an album, I think is definitely in the forefront of my mind. I would also in the future, I would love to do more like collaborations because I think for a long time I just was wanting to figure myself out and release on my own. But now that me and the Distractions have been playing together for a little over a year, and we just have so much fun, and it's just so easy. And I think we want to do some more writing together and release more as a group. So that would be really cool. Just collaborating in general, I think, is something I would like to do more of.
So, flipping this around, what advice would you give to an aspiring artist looking to make their mark in the industry?
Just release it. It'll never be perfect, and you'll listen to it 150 times, and it will be the same. Just release it, because if you don't, the time of your life will leave, and you will look back on it and wish you put it out. So just release it because you like it.
And do it for you. I think
Yeah.
that's important with any kind of content. As I think that can be advice for any kind of content, whether it's music, whether it's content creation in general, whether it's art, whether it's a book. I don't know.
Yeah, people are so afraid of being cringy, but like all singers are cringy. Like you open your mouth and you are really loud, like that's cringy. You're always going to be a little bit cringe, and you have to just be like I am cringe, but I am free, you know?
It's true. It's true. So with the topic of advice, this is one of my favorite questions. I always get good answers from this, and I'm sure you're not gonna let me down on another one here, Devon. Um, no pressure. Um, but what is the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
I have been very lucky to have several mentors throughout my life. My vocal coach growing up, Miss Cheryl, I always have a space in my heart for her. She gave me not only just vocal advice, but life advice. And she was really the person who instilled in me to live for myself and do things for myself. And it's okay to put yourself first and not worry about what other people are saying about you or saying to you. I think at the time I was in high school and you're just at your least confident self. And I had a couple very traumatizing life events happen one after the other. And I was just feeling the absolute shit about myself, about my body, like just was not, it wasn't cute. And she really just, whether that was through music we were learning that week or just the specifics of what she would say are escaping me, but I know that the premise was like, you're going to leave this period of your life behind. So why fixate on it? Be present. Like just be who you are right now. Do the things that you love and the rest will just happen, fall into place.
It's a good advice. And it's true. Like I think all the time we get stuck in this like, oh my goodness, like I don't want to make this mistake or I don't want to do this or and then just starts snowballing into overthinking because it's, I don't know, maybe what we're trained to do in a sense. It's one thing that at least have helped me in the past. And I mean, I don't know if anyone's said it as clear as that teacher did to you, but it's basically like essentially reminding myself, like, is this going to matter to me in like whatever amount of months or whatever amount of days or like amount of years? Like, is this going to be something I'm thinking about every single day? And if it's no, then why am I worrying about it now?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's something that I just got to let go. And it's helped me with a lot of decisions in life, I'll say. I mean, I'm not perfect at it, but it's definitely something that's helped me get over a lot of kind of useless bullshit, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I agree with that advice. And it is, like I said, you always get a good answer from that one. What helps you decompress?
Reality TV.
What are we talking here? Are we talking
That
Kardashians?
was like the most basic bitch answer, but it's so true. Like sometimes you just need the most mindless, like brain numbing. I love reality TV. Like I love a good dating show. Me and my best friend weekly watch the Bachelor franchise and make it a thing. We're so into it. We have actually frequently joked about starting our own like Bachelor commentary podcast because we always just say the most outrageous things. Decompressing. Like I think just yeah, stuff that shuts your brain off. Like I'm a really big foodie, so any sort of like comfort food and just throw on like a trashy show and you're golden.
Sounds awesome. That sounds like a fun evening or hanging out for sure.
That's all I do.
If you're given 3 things to make you happy, what would those 3 things be and why?
My family is number one. I like could not have lucked out more. Like we're all just insane, but we're all just so close and I feel very fortunate to have the family dynamic that I do have. Like not only are we resilient, but we're just our love for each other is so unconditional that I just really got the luck of the draw with my family. And I would say music, and that's so silly because like that's such a generalized statement, but that's like nothing really makes me happier. And the third thing, I'll just say my cat.
cat?
His name is Pascal.
Oh,
I'll send you a picture later.
sounds good. We'll put it on the screen now.
Yeah. Yeah, he's my son.
Oh, so the family cat and music, you said. I'm going to spin it back to music for a second here. What is one place or experience that has had a profound impact on your creativity?
I think that first kind of studio visit with Chris, like going to Nova and like writing Roots, I think I was always like, of course, creative, and like I've been singing since I was like, I used to walk around my house and opera sing like as a toddler. I feel like that part's always been a part of me. I really like felt something unlock and like click during that first studio session with Chris. Like just I can remember exactly like the outfit I wore. Like I know exactly where I was sitting, and just I always think back to that because that whole process of writing that, I was like, okay, this is what I want to sound like, and this is what I want the next year of releasing to play out like. This is what I want the EP to sound like. It just kind of snowballed from there. I think I'm still like tapping into unlocking my full potential of creativity, and I think that will come with becoming more and more shameless, and just not holding back and like being okay with being vulnerable. Like that was one thing with releasing Only You that I was like, oh, everyone's gonna know who this is about, and like what, and now everyone's gonna know exactly what I was feeling in that moment, and that is a little bit scary. But yeah, like being in the studio that one day, I was like, I'm ready to be like this artist.
It definitely creates that level.
Yeah, set the standard.
Totally. It's hilarious to me because when you said opera around the house, that gave me crazy flashbacks to my little sister who did the exact same thing around the house of like the opera. And it's the weirdest thing because like, why is every little kid get it? Like, why is it opera? Like, why is opera the one that like every little like kid is like singing it?
The most loud. And
probably.
Like, how do I attract all of this attention to myself?
Honestly, probably. So looking at that little girl, that little Devon that was singing around the house, there's obviously been a lot of things you've done between that time and to here. And I'm sure that has made her proud. So what is something that you are proud of about yourself?
I would say my resilience in like getting back up after being knocked down. That was so cliche. I hated every minute of me saying that. But
I get knocked down.
That's what I was thinking too. Like, just break into song. I think I am very proud of my resilience, and I think little me would also be proud of not only that, but just every time I come back, like I'm still the same person. And I have changed in terms of I've grown up and I've glowed up, because no one wants to see a picture of me from middle school. But I've like definitely like just grown as a human and as your brain develops. But I have not changed who I am, and I haven't stopped being a good person.
This is my final question for you, Devon, today. It is one of my favorite questions, my all-time favorite questions. And take as much time as you need to think about this one. But Devon, if your life was a movie, what would the title be and why?
I feel like I have a note in my phone about this.
You can go for it. All good.
I'm gonna look. My notes app in my phone is a vortex of information. Like, if I die, never show anybody my notes app.
just destroy the phone, please.
Throw the whole phone away. Don't show anyone. But also, knowing me, like, it would probably just be called something stupid, like title of your sex tape, like Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Great show, by the way.
Great show. I have an unhealthy obsession with Andy Samberg. To be honest, I'd probably call it like okay bye, or like something that I say a lot. We could just go title of your sex tape. That's cool too.
Sounds good. Well, Devon, this has been Connections on Devon. You've been a wonderful guest. You've been vulnerable with us. You've shared us some interesting stories. We've gotten to learn a lot about you today, and a little bit about how we met each other, which is kind of hilarious. And I got to live through that trauma a second time. So thanks.
So sorry.
I was kidding. However, this is the section where it is for you. This is for you to shout out anyone, anything that's going on for you. The floor is yours, Devon. Take us away. What's going on in the life of Devon that we should know about?
Well, Only You came out September 7th, but we do have a live rendition that me and the Distractions did that is going to be coming soon. Yeah, I just want to say hi to my mom, and I had such a great time with you. Thank you for having me.
For sure. Thank you for joining us. So thank you so much for watching. This has been Connections. We'll see you next time. Take care. Drink some water. Love you. Peace.